Hello from geoTopFlex. I am actually novaTopFlex. This is the geography side channel of novaTopFlex. If the screen is visible on your end, you should be able to see my application. Well, this is not actually mine, and the service is actually not mine either. This is actually OpenStreetMap. I recommend that you use OpenStreetMap, especially if you are running on Linux. See novaTopFlex for more details and reasons why you should start transitioning to open mapping. But as geoTopFlex, I am actually doing the geographical component. So what is geoTopFlex? In this live, or you can watch this as a video later, I will show you what the difference between novaTopFlex and geoTopFlex is from the perspective of geoTopFlex. So let me start with the U.S. state of Maine. In geoTopFlex, I'll often distinguish between different types of highways within the United States and possibly Canada eventually, but starting with the United States of America. So if you see this map, US 1 is a US highway, 1A is one alternate, and Maine highways 11 and 161 are quite nearby, at least when you're in Fort Kent they are, but they do start to diverge from here. So this is what happens on US 1, Maine 11, Maine 163. Now that you're going further south, note that not every state has a discernible pattern of highway nomenclature within it. This is in Maine, the Passamaquoddy Indian Township Reservation. Now let me keep going. US 1 and Maine 9. Now while I can't actually cover everything, you can get the point, and I'm very sorry. I would like to see an OpenStreetMap version that has state highway shields on it. Maybe you have any ideas on an OpenStreetMap that actually has official state highway shields on it as well. I would like to see the actual state highway shields and the different designs. In Maine, though, it would just be a plain design. Now, moving on to New Hampshire, you might see an interstate in some views, but this is US 2. This is a US highway, not an interstate. Now in Littleton and its area, we are getting closer to a freeway. It's actually I-93, so it's New Hampshire 25, I-91, Vermont 25. And yes, I-91. So usually the reddest color is the freeway color, and then the oranges could be anything, so it is a gradual trend. So the standout color, the red, is supposed to be freeways, and then orange may be an expressway, and these are all motorway related, and then the closer to yellow you get, the lighter the highway. Note that on modern mapping services, you may not see yellow and orange and red anymore for your highways. Why did they change that? Probably because the highways themselves are not marked in those colors. But on OpenStreetMap, you will still see these highway colors that some other mapping providers have used to use. They might not use them anymore. I don't think they do. Now, this is Massachusetts 9. So, also, I forgot to mention that the state highway shields are different in most but not all states. Massachusetts is using the same design as Maine. And it's pretty similar in Rhode Island as well. Now, this is just... So the reason why you have a lot of similar numbers, sometimes they come from the traditional New England state highway system. Well, it's actually an interstate highway system. It's all New England. But now that's not the case any longer. As we go toward New York City, you will see the very complex highway system. This is a typical highway system for different urban, suburban zones, and eventually if you go further out. So if I go east on Long Island, note that it's pretty traditional in this part. This is kind of the first part of the country, but not necessarily. We're starting east and we're heading west, mostly. Now, what if we go north in New York? Will we get any different patterns? Yes, we will. That's the answer. And another answer is it depends on where exactly you are in northern New York. Lake Champlain is on the line between New York and Vermont. Plattsburgh is on the west side of the line in New York. Now, this is actually at the Canadian border. So we see Malone is there. That's going to be Potsdam, New York. And these are all on US 11. Note that in Watertown, so I'm very sorry for anything that might show up on OpenStreetMap that might not be able to show up on other services for their different reasons. And I'm very sorry that OpenStreetMap is not loading for me right now. So I'm trying to change that. So that was Syracuse and Cortland. So I'm very sorry that I can't get to everything, but if you watch the New York State Highway numbers, you will see a haphazard pattern. So there is no official pattern. Same thing in Pennsylvania, by the way, and I will show. So you might see a pattern on the lowest numbers in New Jersey, but that is not necessarily being obeyed any longer. It's only for the lowest numbers, though. The highest numbers will not have patterns. Okay, so we are getting closer and closer to Cape May. We still don't typically see a lot of patterns. Get toward Lewis, Delaware. And Delaware actually does have a grid system, but they do use circles for their state highway shields. That is standard. Now let me go west, and it can also go south into Maryland. And while I'm only focused on the eastern shore for now, I will focus on other regions soon, but I'm only doing a sample. And showing the eastern shore is enough to know that if you watched Maryland state highway numbers in this view, you will see. You might need to zoom in technically. So, yeah, but 16, 313, 392, this is pretty haphazard, and they have almost nothing to do with Delaware numbers. So that's 213, 333, 331, 328, and others. 16, 12, and then 13 is a U.S. route, Virginia 175. And actually, Virginia is pretty interesting. So I'm going to look at, this is Hampton Roads that we're getting into. But now, if I zoom in on any point in Virginia, so if you see SR, that is state road or secondary in the case of Virginia. If you're in North Carolina, this situation is not going to be the same. Sometimes you may not have, I think there might be many cases where you may not even have the center line on the 600 series and above, occasionally, depending on the county and everything. Now, in North Carolina, it is treated differently. So note that, yes, even though you're in North Carolina at this point, you might actually think that the 4-digit routes in North Carolina are secondary, and while it does suggest 1210 and the white suggests secondary, I do not know. Please tell me in the comments right now or soon. It doesn't have to be now, but any time would be greatly appreciated. For anything that I don't know about the system, please help me learn more about and teach me more about the state highway systems as I go on my geoTopFlex journey. This is 1737 and 1336. I do not know, but this might be a secondary situation. And yes, the different systems exist, so we could be in, we did pass through some urban, suburban, fringe, distant, and we have done some remote areas already, although we did skirt around most of them. But now we are getting to some of the smaller cities and towns as well. But this is 701 and 421, so note that Y701 is in North Carolina, so we don't see 1, but we're pretty close to it. I would need to zoom out to see why the routes get their numbers. But I'm currently looking at overall patterns, and I'm still trying to ask myself and answer, what is geoTopFlex? Now I'm actually in South Carolina, and I believe I already know this, but I'm going to tell you again that there is no pattern in South Carolina system, and my analysis and anything that I can realize about the systems will be on geoTopFlex, on the YouTube channel geoTopFlex. Now moving over to Georgia. Now you could be anywhere in Georgia and find that the numbers are pretty haphazard. Now this is going to be for Georgia's example. And sorry that I can't cover every state because that would take a longer amount of time and I'm going to have to cover it in a later video. But this is Georgia. And then as we approach Florida, so this is all, yeah, we are in Florida at this point with Jacksonville. The GAs turn into FLs in this part and everything. So this is Florida. And we will see that while some numbers have concurrency, they are not necessarily that way. Georgia and Florida numberings can be very similar at some times, but very different most of the time. Although this is normal. And I'm sorry that I can't actually go any further because of time, but hopefully check back on geoTopFlex soon for more information from other states. I will show you the OpenStreetMap views in different states, and just like I did just now, I will show you and tell you about the different highway patterns and any coincidental patterns that might exist in the systems. and any specific numbering that you would like me to go over, feel free to put it in the comments. Thanks for watching this live, or if you're watching this later, thanks for watching this video. Bye for now.